In the small town of Willow Creek, Illinois, life at Willow Creek High School seemed perfectly ordinary. Students laughed in the hallways, teachers guided their classes, and everyone looked forward to graduation. Among these students was Emma Turner, an 18-year-old senior known for her bright smile and quiet demeanor. Emma lived with her single mother, Laura Turner, in a modest home on Elm Street. Emma was a dedicated student, active in the school choir, and enjoyed spending time with her close-knit group of friends. Her life was a blend of schoolwork, extracurricular activities, and evenings at home helping her mother. Laura worked long hours at a local clinic, always ensuring Emma had what she needed despite their limited means. However, behind Emma's calm exterior lay a secret that had shaped her entire life. For nearly 18 years, Laura had kept a devastating truth hidden from Emma. Both she and Emma were living with HIV. This secret was born from a tragic event before Emma was born, an incident that left Laura infected and facing an uncertain future. To protect Emma from the stigma and the emotional burden of this knowledge, Laura had chosen silence, managing her health discreetly with daily medications and regular doctor visits. One chilly autumn evening, the fragile balance of their lives was shattered. As Emma sat at the kitchen table doing her homework, Laura entered, her face etched with worry. The room was quiet except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. "Emma, we need to talk," Laura began, her voice trembling. Emma looked up, sensing the gravity in her mother's tone. "What's wrong, Mom?" Emma asked, her heart racing. Laura took a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. "There's something I've been keeping from you for a long time. Something I should have told you before." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. "What is it?" Laura's eyes welled up with tears. "Before you were born, I went through something terrible. I was hurt by someone I trusted, and it left me with a condition. I have HIV. And when I found out I was pregnant with you, the doctors tested me and discovered that you have it too." Emma froze, the room spinning around her. All the unanswered questions, the pills her mother took every day, the frequent doctor visits. It all made sense now. Shock gave way to anger and betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. Laura reached out, but Emma pulled away. "I thought I was protecting you. I didn't want you to live your life feeling different or defined by this." Emma felt a wave of emotions crashing over her: shock, anger, confusion. "Protecting me? You've been lying to me my whole life." Unable to handle the revelation, Emma stormed out of the kitchen, her mind racing with thoughts she couldn't process. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the betrayal and the weight of her own diagnosis. The next morning, Emma walked into Willow Creek High School as if nothing had changed. But inside, she felt like a stranger in her own life. Every interaction, every glance from her teachers seemed different now. Emma began to notice things she had previously overlooked: the way her teachers interacted with her, the extra attention some seemed to give her, and the unspoken boundaries that were being crossed. Her English teacher, Mr. Thompson, was always encouraging, often staying after class to discuss her essays. Coach Harris, the basketball coach, frequently gave her personal advice during practice, and Mrs. Lopez, the art teacher, always seemed genuinely interested in her projects. Even Principal Carter, who ran the school with a friendly demeanor, had moments where he seemed too involved. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that these teachers were taking advantage of her in some way. Her mother's secret had opened her eyes to the hidden dynamics around her, making her question the intentions of those she once trusted. As days passed, Emma's frustration grew. She felt powerless, her life controlled by secrets and lies. Determined to regain control, Emma began to formulate a plan, not just to confront those she felt had wronged her, but to make them feel the same vulnerability and betrayal she had experienced. Emma's first target was Mr. Thompson. She knew his supportive nature made him an easy target. Over the next few weeks, she sought his help more frequently, asking for extra time to discuss her essays and projects. Each meeting was carefully orchestrated to build trust and familiarity. One afternoon, as the final bell rang and students began to leave, Emma approached Mr. Thompson's desk. "Mr. Thompson, can I stay after class to talk about my essay?" she asked softly. "Of course, Emma. Let's see what you've got," he replied with his usual warm smile. In the quiet of his office, Emma leaned forward, letting her arm brush against his. She complimented his teaching methods, her voice soft and sincere. Mr. Thompson, caught off guard by her newfound intimacy, hesitated but continued to help her with her work. Their interactions became more frequent and more personal, leading to a moment where boundaries were crossed. After their sessions, Emma left his office feeling a mix of triumph and unease. She had achieved her first goal, but a small part of her felt conflicted about what she had done. Encouraged by her initial success, Emma set her sights on Coach Harris. Joining the basketball team, despite her lack of interest in sports, gave her ample opportunities to interact with him. She made herself noticeable, choosing outfits that highlighted her figure and staying after practice to seek extra advice. One evening, as the team was packing up, Emma approached Coach Harris. "Coach, I feel like I'm not improving. I don't want to let the team down," she confessed, her voice trembling. Coach Harris placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're doing great, Emma. It just takes time and effort." Emma stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just don't feel good enough." Before he could react, she touched his arm gently. Coach Harris, feeling the pressure and Emma's earnestness, responded, and they shared a fleeting, intense moment. Emma walked away, feeling both empowered and disgusted by her actions. Next on Emma's list was Mrs. Lopez, the art teacher. Understanding her reserved nature, Emma immersed herself in art projects, often staying late after school to work on her assignments. She offered heartfelt compliments and sought Mrs. Lopez's guidance, creating a bond that blurred professional boundaries. "Mrs. Lopez, I wish I could see the world the way you do," Emma said one afternoon, her voice filled with admiration. Mrs. Lopez smiled, slightly taken aback by the depth of Emma's comment. "It just takes practice, Emma." Over time, Emma's persistent admiration led to another compromised moment, furthering her mission to exert control and seek revenge. Mr. Bennett, the history teacher, was more challenging. He was strict and professional, rarely engaging in casual conversations. However, Emma noticed his frustration one day during a lecture, overhearing him argue on the phone about personal troubles at home. Sensing an opportunity, she approached him after class. "Mr. Bennett, you seemed upset yesterday. Is everything okay?" she asked gently. "It's nothing, Emma. Just some personal stuff," he replied, trying to dismiss her concern. Undeterred, Emma continued to offer support, slowly breaking down his professional barriers until they, too, shared an intimate moment. Finally, Emma targeted Principal Carter, the most authoritative figure at Willow Creek High. Deliberately breaking minor rules, she found excuses to visit his office, each visit carefully planned to build rapport. Her persistence paid off when she finally crossed the professional line, completing her list of targets. Emma's calculated actions began to take a toll on her teachers. Mr. Thompson became withdrawn, avoiding not just Emma, but also his colleagues. Coach Harris threw himself into the gym, neglecting his emotional well-being. Mrs. Lopez missed after-school sessions, leaving her students worried. Mr. Bennett faced suspensions and restrictions on future roles, and Principal Carter found himself under intense scrutiny, leading to his resignation and legal troubles. The strain among the teachers grew, culminating in an impromptu meeting called by Principal Carter in the teacher's lounge. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the five gathered, each carrying the weight of their actions in silence. Mrs. Lopez broke the silence first, her voice shaky. "I need to talk. It's about Emma." One by one, each teacher confessed their encounters with Emma, revealing how she had manipulated them into compromising their professional boundaries. The realization hit them all at once. They had been pawns in Emma's quest for control and revenge. Meanwhile, Emma overheard their conversation from outside the lounge. Guilt and fear surged through her as she realized the depth of the damage she had caused. Her plan had spiraled out of control, and there was no turning back. Unable to bear the weight of her actions, Emma knew she had to come clean. The next morning, she walked into Principal Carter's office, her hands trembling. "I need to talk to you," she whispered. Principal Carter looked up, startled by her demeanor. "Emma, what's wrong?" Taking a deep breath, Emma began to confess everything: her mother's secret, her feelings of betrayal, and the calculated plan she had executed to make those she trusted feel the same pain she had endured. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke, each word a heavy burden lifted from her conscience. Principal Carter listened in stunned silence, his expression pale. "Emma, this is serious. We need to involve the authorities." Emma nodded, tears continuing to fall. "I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I'm so sorry." Within hours, the police arrived, and the quiet halls of Willow Creek High buzzed with whispers and shock. Emma was escorted out of the building, her head bowed low, while the teachers faced public scrutiny and legal consequences for their actions and the breach of professional boundaries. The aftermath of Emma's actions was swift and severe. Mr. Thompson, Coach Harris, and Mrs. Lopez lost their teaching licenses and positions, facing public condemnation and the loss of their careers. Mr. Bennett received a suspension and was barred from holding administrative roles in education for the next decade. Principal Carter, as the head of the school, bore the brunt of the blame for failing to maintain a safe environment. He was forced to resign and faced legal consequences, including probation and mandatory counseling. As for Emma, the legal system took her age and the psychological factors into account. Rather than traditional incarceration, she was placed in a rehabilitation facility where she could receive mental health treatment, counseling, and continued care for her HIV status. This approach aimed to address the underlying trauma and anger that had driven her actions. Emma's mother, Laura, stood by her daughter despite the devastation. She took responsibility for the secrecy that had played a role in Emma's struggles and sought therapy to process her own pain. Together, they worked through their trauma, supporting each other in ways they never had before. Laura also became an outspoken advocate for HIV awareness, working tirelessly to reduce the stigma that had shaped so much of their lives. She spoke at community events, sharing their story to educate others and prevent similar tragedies. Emma's time in the rehabilitation center was a journey toward redemption. She confronted her actions, understanding the depth of her pain and the consequences of her revenge. Through therapy, she began to find ways to channel her anger and guilt into positive efforts to help others. The events at Willow Creek High left a lasting impact on the entire community. Policies were rewritten to strengthen safeguards and maintain professional boundaries between students and teachers. Conversations around health, mental well-being, and empathy became more open and proactive. The story of Emma Turner served as a powerful lesson on the destructive power of secrecy and the importance of addressing personal pain before it leads to irrevocable harm. It highlighted the necessity of fostering empathy, maintaining professional boundaries, and ensuring that individuals do not feel isolated or compelled to take drastic measures when faced with trauma and betrayal. Years later, Willow Creek had changed. The high school implemented comprehensive support systems for students, including mental health resources and confidential counseling services. The community remained vigilant, committed to preventing such a tragedy from happening again. Emma, now a young woman working with advocacy groups, continued to share her story. Her experiences had shaped her into a compassionate and understanding individual, dedicated to helping others navigate their own struggles. The legacy of Emma Turner's actions lingered, not as a tale of revenge and destruction, but as a reminder of the importance of empathy, understanding, and the courage to seek help when facing personal pain. As the community of Willow Creek moved forward, they pondered essential questions. Could the outcome have been different if Emma's struggles had been noticed and addressed earlier? Was her pursuit of control and revenge a hidden plea for help that went unheard? How can such tragedies be prevented in the future through better support systems and open communication? These questions fueled ongoing discussions, ensuring that the lessons learned from Emma's story would guide the community toward a more supportive and understanding future. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below with your perspective on the story and what you think could have changed the outcome. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you more true crime stories like this one.